I used to think that I was such a renaissance dad when it came to video games. My son played Portal. He built levels in Portal 2. He played all the Mario games. He didn't mess around with mobile games, other than, just occasionally. He dabbled in Minecraft, but it wasn't like a big thing to him. Kid played, Max the Curse of Brotherhood and all sorts of stuff. But those days are over, Pete Dodd.
Uh-oh.
All he wants to do, the only thing he wants to play anymore is Minecraft.
Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
I'm not even saying it's a bad thing, right? I mean, it's better than many other potential choices.
Right. It fosters creativity and your imagination because it's, you do whatever you want in the world. I mean, it's like playing with Legos, but on a much larger scale.
Yeah. Oh, there's definitely a lot of good stuff about it. But it's just been really interesting in the last couple of weeks. This is a fairly new situation. I mean, Minecraft has been available to him for a long time.
Hmm.
But the other thing that's different about it is now he's all about playing survival mode.
Right.
When he first started playing Minecraft, survival mode scared the heck out of him, and he just loved playing creative mode and building stuff and things. But now he is fully invested in the world of Enderman and Herobrine and killing things and collecting the loot that they leave behind. And he and his friends have long, extended conversations about, well, to make this, you have to get this, and you have to cook it in the furnace, and then you got to plant some of this, and then I'm growing some radishes, and I'm growing some potatoes, and I'm just like, and then like his little friend came over today because, well, let's just say there was an Everton match started at 11 a.m. followed by an Eagles game that started at 1 p.m. So I had about a 5.5 to 6 hour stretch of sports that I wanted to watch, and him and his friend playing Minecraft together for a significant amount of that time made it possible for me to watch sports during a significant amount of time. So
that works.
Yeah, it worked out really well for me. And but my son was playing Minecraft on the iPad, and his friend was playing it on the phone. But they were both in the same world and arguing and fighting with each other because one of them was doing something the other one didn't like, and then the other one would do something that the other one didn't like. But they're all Minecraft all the time now. That's all they want to play, and it's fascinating to see take place at the same exact time that, as we spoke about last week, Microsoft buys Minecraft, and everybody's wondering what it's for and what it's about and all that stuff. It's weird. One has nothing to do with the other, but it's just interesting that it's happening at exactly the same time.
Well, I think you sort of see, it probably helps you see why they did buy it. It's more than just the profits, and obviously they want to make a profit off this, but people, especially kids who play Minecraft, love Minecraft. So if the game that they love has a little splash screen that says Microsoft on it, and they start doing brand association just in that way, just on that alone, is worth $2.5 billion to them because it's pocket change to Microsoft.
Yeah.
So it makes the deal makes sense when you see, especially kids, get that into it. I don't think it's going away either. I mean, people are like, it's already over, and it's like, I didn't know. It's still, like, more kids are going to be born. It's not ending anytime soon.
Well, and my son, he's an only son, right? It's just the three of us, my wife, myself, and my son. So we're this little close-knit unit. But his little friend who came over is one of four. And his friend is 7, but his friend has a younger brother who is 4. who watches those two play Minecraft, and not just play Minecraft the game, but when they go out in the backyard, when we finally are like, it's a 64 degrees sunny day, you should be outside at least a little bit, and they take their cardboard pickaxes and they go outside and they mine everything and act out Minecraft outside.
That's cool. I mean, I used to run around with a little cardboard lightsaber and
Absolutely.
pretend I was, Luke Skywalker. So why not pretend you're Steve?
Yes.
That is actually the name of the Minecraft guy.
Yes, they have very pitched battles between Herobrine and Steve and Enderman and spiders and like at one point today during a particularly heated time of the Eagles Redskins game, I had two Minecraft spiders crawling all over me that I had to tickle to get away from me. I mean, it's just funny how it has completely taken over their concept of fun. Like that's what they want to do all the time, and it's fascinating that he now at 7 and his little friend, like at one point he told me today, he's like, I want Michael to play Minecraft with me. I'm like, okay, go for it. And he's like, no, he's got the phone and I got like help us. I'm like, I don't know how to do that, how to get you two in the same world, and they figured it out on their own. I'm like, ugh, wow, okay, good for them. So just like you say, it just makes total sense to me that that they did it. And like I said, whenever it fires up, my son goes Mojang. So
right,
pretty soon he'll be saying Microsoft, like you said, and planting those seeds of Microsoft.
Right.
It's funny. It's funny, and what'll be even more interesting is how long does this last? Is this, Minecraft will obviously be part of what he plays for a while, but will it be all like at one point tonight, I'm like, hey, before bed, you want to go play some Mario Kart 8? Huh? Me, you, come on, let's go do it. He's like, I'd rather play Minecraft. I'm like, oh, okay. Fine. I'll watch more football. I've watched 5.5 hours of football today. That's a lot more football than I ever normally watch, so go ahead, play. But interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, well, I was afraid you were going to say, like, the Kim Kardashian mobile game or something, so it definitely could have been a lot worse.
Yes, it definitely could have been. Oh, my gosh. And, for Halloween, all of his friends are variations on Minecraft people. By the way, I know it's only September 21st when we're recording this, but yeah, the kids are already talking about Halloween because evidently when you're 7 or 8 years old, that's what you do.
Right.
And they're all either going to be Enderman or Steve or Herobrine, or then there's the Ender Dragon, which evidently is a big deal, and that's a big deal, so it's funny. One of the things that I have noticed this week, Pete Dodd. Mm-hmm. By the way, welcome to episode 253 of the Doddcast, sir.
Yeah, you too.
One of the things that I have noticed is a marked increase in your enjoyment of Destiny.
Yes.
Like not just yours, but several other people that I follow have. Mm-hmm. This week seems like there's been a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Some things have happened, and tell me what they are and why it has become so different for you than it was just a week ago when you were like, hey, it's fun, but it's just fun, as opposed to where you are now.
Well, the game opens up quite a bit as you level up. So I just have a lot more available to me at this point in time, even though I have a skeleton in my closet that somebody is tweeting about. There's just really fun stuff to do. Like,
I just got that. It took about 10 seconds, but then I got that. What do you have? Do you have the tweet? I do actually. Let's might as well bring it up now, right? So this is from our good friend Darby Desbang, He said, I saw a Pete Dodd Destiny stream a couple of days ago. It was him standing near a cave, farming loot. Can he stoop any lower?
And the answer to that is
yes.
I have.
A resounding yes.
Yeah, so I mean, like this. It's basically a bug, but it's like it's featured on Kotaku. There's so many people doing it right now. It's basically if you stay far enough away from this one cave, it doesn't stop. Like, it will just keep respawning enemies. Where if you get closer, the spawn timer starts. So, like, like enemies don't. So it will be patched and it will go away. But for now, people just stand there and just shoot endlessly into a cave, and then every 15 or 20 minutes, there's just giant piles of loot on the ground, and you go and collect them all. And it's the most, like, brain-dead, stupidest, awesomest, greatest thing, and I'm going to be so sad when they patch it out. But it actually reminded me, 2 generations ago, there was a game by the name of EverQuest Online Adventures, and our friend and listener and subscriber Master Germ, or Journey,
yes,
as he's sometimes known, he and I were in the beta for that, and we both bought it afterwards. But in the beta, there was a crab that was on an island that you could just kill, like, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And back then, MMOs took crazy long times to level. So we would sit there for 6 hours at a time, standing on an island, killing the same crab over and over again, just because it was the most effective way to level our characters up. So that was even more pathetic than shooting into a cave. But yeah, there's just a lot more stuff to do in Destiny. I did my first heroic strike last night.
Explain to somebody who doesn't know what that means what that is. And by the way, I don't know what that means. So
it's a cooperative mission that is, they can kind of build them. You know how I was talking about last week how every level is kind of like its own little open world? Yeah. So they can build a bunch of different ways through it and put bosses and rearrange the enemies, and and heroic, it makes it a higher level, so you get better loot. So it's kind of like a typical sort of end game dungeon, like if it was World of Warcraft or EverQuest or something like that. I got invited to do it with Adam Boyes, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it was really fun. Except for I was awful, and it was really embarrassing. I was like, I don't know. I just kept dying over and over again.
Was it?
They kept having to revive me, and I was like, oh my god, I'm bringing down the whole team.
Was it worse than being even par through 13 holes and then getting a 10 on a par 3 on a live stream in a tournament in the golf club? Because that's what happened to me the other day, and that was really awful.
That's happened to me as well. That's why I don't really stream the golf club anymore.
Oh my god!
There's always that one hole where it just turns into a meltdown.
I don't have a lot of online meltdowns, but I had one right then, and there were all. Yeah. Thank goodness there were only about 10 people watching, and like a minute after, when I was just sitting there, just with my hand in my face like this, one of the stream comments was, "That was brutal, but really fun to watch." I was like, "Oh, hate you." So, anyway, I feel your pain. Okay.
So Destiny has just become a wider game, I guess. They added a new mode. Evidently, there were vehicles in a couple of the maps. I somehow did not know that.
I saw that tweet. I laughed. That was great.
Yeah, but one of the things is I don't think those maps had tanks, which these new maps do, but maybe they did. I don't know how I played 20 multiplayer matches, and I know that I played 20 because I had to do like a bounty for it. I don't know how I played 20 plus multiplayer matches without ever seeing a vehicle until this new playlist, so then I look like a fucking idiot on Twitter. But anyway, they're bigger maps, lots of vehicles. It felt more like the Halo multiplayer, and you just sort of get the feeling that this is just going to keep happening. Like they've already outlined, like there's some event that's happening this week that's going to be like a player, like a co-op event, like something about the Queen's Guard something, and and there's always like a daily heroic strike and stuff like that, and yeah, like I said, they're like adding stuff to the player versus player. So there is just a lot to do, and they released the first raid, which takes about 10 to 12 hours to beat, and very few people in the world have even beaten it yet. The first team to beat it, there's an interview with them on Kotaku again. There's an interview with those guys, and they have been strategizing for this raid for about 6 months before they even knew anything. They were like, we're going to be the world's first clan in Destiny, and we're going to read every little bit of information we can, and and they, when they knew this raid was going to come out, they all took the week off from work, and they died something like 1,100 times making it through it. But they finally, but they were the world's first. They accomplished their goal. So yeah, I'm not quite raid level yet. I think I have to be 26 or 27 to be of any use. Though I did gain a few levels last night. Yeah, I was up until 7 o'clock in the morning with those guys just because it was just so fun. I was like, and I haven't stayed up till 7 playing the same game like for a long, long time. I was like, looked outside and it was sunny, and I was like, oh shit, I need to go to sleep.
I think that's fantastic, and I love the fact that the mainstream games media has no idea what to make of this game anymore. Mm-hmm. I love that. I think it's spectacular because they have no idea what to make about sports games. They have no idea what to make about MMOs. They have no idea what to do with whatever Dota and League of Legends are. Like, they just don't have any idea what to do with these games. First they hate them, and then they love them, and then they just quit. It's like, forget it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I keep seeing, like, the game has, like, pretty crappy Metacritic score for a, AAA game from a huge developer.
For a wildly popular game, right? A wildly popular game.
And GAF, for some reason, too, like, is just filled with negativity, and I'm not saying the entire forum because there's people who obviously like it there, but there's just, like, I saw one thread that was so dumb. It was like, is PlayStation's relationship with Destiny going to hurt them in the long term? And everyone was like, they just announced that they sold the most consoles in a week since Christmas. How is that hurting? Just because you don't like the game doesn't mean that anyone's getting hurt here. Yeah, so I see all that stuff, and then every journalist's Twitter I follow, they are tweeting about playing, and my friends list is usually like 30 to 50 people are playing Destiny. Like, every night. So it's like the internet's like, it sucks, and then you go on the PlayStation Network and probably on the Xbox One as well, and everyone's playing it. So
Yeah, everyone on my friends list is playing it, and people that are friends of our show are talking about it all the time. For example, our good buddy, the J Bone 29,
Hmm.
he says, having just beat the story mode of Destiny and playing PvP, it's in my discussion for Game of the Year. It really grows on you. And
Yep.
I remember hearing quite a few people talking about it, like within the first few days that it came out, and just really being very negative on it. And it seems like the people who have kept on playing it have, I don't want to say all come around because that's can't be true, but a lot of people have not only come around, but they've sort of seemed like they've settled into the groove of,
Right.
this is my game and this is what I play and this is what I'm going to be doing this fall.
And I think a big part of that is that nobody knew what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wrote an article about that on the site.
Yes.
That the sort of meme that came out of the beta was that it was Borderlands mixed with Halo, and it's not. It's much closer to Phantasy Star Online or World of Warcraft than it is to Borderlands. Like Borderlands just shits loot at you constantly. There's no factions. There's all these really complicated systems that exist in these other online role-playing games that don't exist in Borderlands. But people didn't really understand that, and they were just like, I'm not getting enough guns. And it's like, well, you have to work a little bit harder, but when you do get a legendary gun, which I did yesterday, you cheer like your team just scored. Or at least I did. There was a fist pump, like the whole. I was so excited to get a legendary weapon.
It's so interesting to me how a game like this is so different and so misunderstood. It's almost impossible that this game could be misunderstood, right? I mean, there was an alpha, there was a beta, there's been more coverage about this game, and yet it feels to me like nobody had the slightest idea. I mean, they knew it was Halo shooting, and it was aliens.
Right.
And there was loot, and after that, I don't think anybody had really any clue what was going on.
Right. I think the people assumed that it was going to be a lot longer, a lot more linear. Because Borderlands is an open world, but it is very much sort of go into this little subsection, which is a straight corridor with a boss at the end, and then go into this. And there's a set way to do everything. Like when you hit the level cap in Destiny, there's many different valid ways you can play to gear up. You can be like, I'm just going to farm PvP, and then you get Crucible marks, and then you could go to the Crucible Quartermaster and buy gear, or you can be like me and shoot at a cave for a couple hours a night and try to loot gear, or you can do you also get stuff from doing heroic strikes and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different ways to work on your character that I think people who just blasted through the story, wrote a review, and or wrote the game off, whether they're a journalist or not. I think they missed out on that other basically 3/4 of the game. The story, to me, I haven't even finished the story yet, and I'm level 24 or level 25 now. And the story ends at level 18. I just haven't even bothered with it.
I'll never play Destiny, but as I said last week and the week before, I'm glad that it is not the same thing. I mean, whenever I watch a stream, it always looks like the same thing that I've seen and or played a million times, but it's not, and I love that. I think it's great. I think it's.
So you should definitely tune in when I'm shooting at the cave, because that's meaning that it exists.
I just love that that it's a game that weird, stupid stuff can happen. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Hmm.
there's not a lot of those kinds of games where that would be a story, right?
Right. Right. Exactly. And one of the coolest things about it is where we're standing is where one of the public events happens. So every once in a while, a spaceship will just fall out of the sky, and if you don't have enough health, it will kill you. But it blasts everyone else back, and then you have to like go and like, well, I mean, you don't have to do the public event, but you can't farm while it's happening, so everyone just goes nuts on it. But it's the cave is on Earth, which is the first world. So we're all in our 20s, and all the enemies are like level 4. So it's like this public event, and then all these super overpowered guys just blow the crap out of it, and then they go back to shooting the cave again.
Oh, good Lord. Well, let's talk about a game that's almost as popular as Destiny, and that is Murasaki Baby. Um, we talked about it a little bit last week. I just wanted to revisit it for a minute because I did do the review for Games Radar. It went out last week. And I just want to reiterate how wonderful I think Murasaki Baby is. I want to talk a little bit more about what it is that I like so much. Um, it's very short, and it's very weird, and it looks strange. And when I first started playing it, I didn't think I was going to like it at all, and I wound up loving it. Uh, if you don't know what Murasaki Baby is, it is a Vita-specific game that you control via the front touch and the rear touchpad. There's no stick control. There's no buttons. It's just really that. And the core experience is the fact that you are leading a young girl, not an infant, but a very young girl through a very scary, strange, surreal dreamscape, and she just is trying to find her mother. And it is one of the most touching, heartfelt experiences I've had playing games, and there have been a few of them, more than a couple, well, at least a couple in the last few years. Valiant Hearts, The Great War being one of them, Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons being another one where it really struck a chord with me. But a couple of examples of that. Murasaki Baby, as I mentioned, you are literally leading this young girl through the world, and you have to solve puzzles to get her, from one spot to the other. And some of the environments are scary, and some of them are not. And when they're not scary, and you're leading her along by holding her hand, and she follows very happily, kind of bouncing along with you. And other times when it's scary and you're leading her along, she's like leaning back and like, she's coming along with you, but she's like leaning back and taking very tentative steps. And it's just really subtle, but it's really powerful how if she's not scared, she'll go along easily, but if she is scared, she'll still go along, but very tentatively. And it took me a while because I'm not very bright, but somewhere between the middle and the late part of the game, I realized, like, the only way she's moving forward the only reason she's moving forward is because of me, and I have no idea where I'm bringing her, but yet I'm bringing her anyway, and she's completely trusting me to do that.
Right.
And it just struck me, and I was like, one of those whoa moments. Like, that's really amazing how they portray that. And other little subtle hints, like she's a very young girl, 1 or 2 years old, and if you try to bring her along too quickly, she'll stumble and fall, and then she'll pick herself up and she'll brush herself off, and she'll be a little like, come on, I'm little, don't rush.
Right.
And I love the game. I played it again. I've now played through it twice. It's very short, but I highly recommend it. If you consider yourself somebody who enjoys video games, and you have a Vita, one way or the other, I really recommend that that you play this. I'm loath to say go spend $15 on this game, especially a game like Murasaki Baby, which is so strange. And I know some people will love it and some people won't. But boy, it's just one of those games that I think everyone with a Vita should try to experience one way or the other. I really love it.
It's such a bad time for it, though. Yeah. It's like, I mean, the same thing that sort of happened with the golf club. Yeah. It just, like, they couldn't have picked a worse release window.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I want to talk about it, because it will get lost. It will get lost in the...
No, I mean, Vita fans are fairly loyal. Like, they tend to follow stuff like that, and that game was probably, like in their top 3 most anticipated games of the fall.
Yeah.
So it probably didn't get hurt that bad, as if it was like a PlayStation 4 game or something, it would get buried completely.
There's just so much little subtlety and nuance, and so much weirdness. And I didn't even talk about, but like the way that you sort of figure stuff out is through the back touch. You change the different backgrounds, and different backgrounds give you different abilities. Like you can use wind to make stuff move, or you can use lightning to power certain things to move a thing along, or you can use rain to fill something up with water so it'll float, or something will float on it. Just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful game, and I love it. And you know what else I love, Pete? For the first time in really forever, I'm going to have a game of the year list. And I'm not talking a sports game of the year. Like in 2014, I'm going to have a game of the year list, and it won't be like a normal person's game of the year list. It won't be with Call of Duty or Destiny but it'll be with 5 games that I played this year that I really loved, because I've played several games this year that I've really loved, and I'm excited.
I'd like to take credit for that with the Doddcast.
I will give you credit.
Forcing you at gunpoint. After every show, I pull my gun out and I'm like, better play some shit for next week. And
right there. Right there. No, but I'm excited because I've played a bunch of stuff this year that is not a sports game that is going to make the list. And again, the list will be my list. It won't be a games writer's list, right? Because I won't have played any of the games that will make everybody else's game of the year list. But I will have played 5 to 10 games this year that I loved and that are worthy to me of being, on a list like that.
You know what's funny to me? Jason's tweet about Destiny being on his game of the year list made me think about this. Like, my game of the year list thus far is totally like dude bro. Like, it's Titanfall, it's Destiny, it's Madden, it's FIFA just from the demo. Like like my top, like those are my 4 favorite games of the year so far. And I'm usually all artsy fartsy and but those games, taking remasters out of it, because I can't even begin to process where to put The Last of Us in, since I played it last year, stuff like that. But yeah, games that came out this year. And and people seem disappointed too. Like in Titanfall and Destiny, it's like, oh, they both were hyped up and they didn't live up to the hype. And here I am. I'm like, they're my 2 favorite games this year are Titanfall and Destiny.
Well, what is hype anyway? Like, I mean, there's the hype around Titanfall, which was the breathless, articles about how you would literally see, this is going to change the face of games, and this, things that were just ridiculous. Yeah. So, from that point, there's hype. But, so much of the hype to me is so utterly ignorable. I think a lot of people that say, a lot of people that complain about hype are out there looking for hype anyway.
Well, it's because... it's fun to get excited about stuff and to look forward to things, and it's like, if you're a fan... FIFA, Tuesday. Oh, it's the 21st. I can start my preload.
Yeah.
and then be mad that it's on my PS4, but I can't play it. But yeah, it's just it's kind of natural in a way. It's a lot of the fun for a lot of us with video games isn't just playing them; it's talking about them, it's reading about them, it's all of that stuff. I mean, here we are on a podcast, and it's like, so you get excited, and games are always better in your head than they are in real life, and systems are always better in your head than they are in real life, and I mean, it's like like I love Destiny, but Destiny in the version of Destiny in my head's way better, But what I got, like once I've accepted it for what it is, I really, really love it, I don't know, but there is the thing with Titanfall. The reason why I believe that was so hyped is that Titanfall is the type of game that you can pick up a controller for a minute and instantly have fun. It's not the type of game where you have to sit down for like a half hour. So it's perfect for trade shows, like E3 and GDC and all this stuff. People, like journalists and ones open to the public, people play it for 5 minutes and they're like, holy shit, like it just makes an immediate impact. And then the game came out and it was lacking a little bit of depth. I'll agree with that. But I think that's the reason why there's so much hype for it. I don't think it was something where it was like, oh, they were hyping it because it was Microsoft, or they were hyping it because it was Respawn or whatever. I think it was one of those games that just demos really well. Certain games do not demo well at all.
Well, speaking about hype and speaking about Destiny, another good friend of ours, AJ Powell, UK, Anthony Powell, says rich storytelling has been hyped about Destiny, misleading advertising. The only hype, now I'm not going to disagree with what you're saying, Anthony, because again, I really only go a few places anymore for anything related to video games. Number one is the Doddcast, so like literally as I'm talking, I learned stuff from Pete, so that's like my number one source.
I am a hype merchant as well.
My number two source are the Dot Scientific forums now, which I go to every single day. They're by far the best forums. I peruse the headlines of GAF, but I've gotten much more away from GAF. Like I'll go 3 or 4 or 5 days sometimes now without.
GAF has gotten really bad lately.
Well, I'm not even saying it's good or it's bad. It's just It's not what it was when I first started going there. It just when I first started going there, it seemed like there was a whole bunch of really, really intelligent, in-depth discussion about games like that I had. We're talking 10 or 20 levels below, deeper than anything I had ever been exposed to, and again, I'm not saying good or bad. And everything changes over time, right? And it's just changed over time. That's all.
Yeah, it has, and it's also a slow news season, which is killing me. Trying to every day trying to find news to fit the site, but it's like all of the news happens in the first half of the year, and then all the games come out in the second half of the year. So. Without news, then GAF just becomes an opinion,
right?
Stew, and there's too many people, so you're bound to read dumb shit. But anyway.
I come here, I go to the forums at Dot Scientifics, I peruse GAF, I listen to Player One podcast, again, which that's where I get a lot of information and opinion. So I don't go looking at mainstream websites. I don't read really any mainstream websites unless somebody that I know has written a piece. Like Owen Good wrote a great piece today about can people even make sports games in a year anymore. Terrific piece. But, those come around once every couple of weeks. So the only hype that I've seen for Destiny have been those awesome live-action commercials, which have nothing to do with storytelling and are all about peering down into a massive hole and then jumping into it. So obviously Anthony has seen other types of hype about Destiny's storytelling being misleading, but I personally haven't seen that.
The one quote that people who hate Destiny and Destiny's story go to is that somebody at Bungie said, we want, like by the time this thing is wrapped up, we want people to look at the story like they look at Lord of the Rings, or they look at the Star Wars, the entire quadrilogy or whatever the fuck it is. And that on its own, and then you play through the story, and I don't have the problems that other people have with the story or Peter Dinklage's voice acting. It doesn't bother me, but it also doesn't do anything for me. But that is par for the course in video games. So I guess I didn't believe them, and also I don't know the context of that quote, because it's kind of like the whole, to go back to like sports, because that's what we do best. When a reporter asked Eli Manning if he thought he was an elite, top 5 quarterback, what is he supposed to say? No?
Of course not.
So if someone asked, like, is your story going to be this big, huge thing?
To the guy who spent his entire life writing the story.
Right. Is he supposed to say, nah, it's kind of shit?
Yeah.
So, I don't even know the context of the quote. But that is what everyone brings up, and
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, my whole life's work, they pay me $100,000 a year, but no, it's not worth anything. It's garbage.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah. And Dinklage, fuck that guy. He sucks.
He's overpaid. Barely does anything. He's a joke.
But yeah, so like the story. But I also don't go into games like that for the story. The story of World of Warcraft is bullshit as well.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the Borderlands stories are utter fucking rubbish with humor for 8-year-olds, which a lot of adults like humor for 8-year-olds. If that's your thing, cool. But it's not my thing. Well, sometimes it is, but. I just don't like the way they do it.
I mean, yeah. to me, the bigger a game, the less a story you can tell anyway, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, how do you tell a always online people moving through your world, playing cooperatively and against each other, and tell a story, say, of the caliber of The Last of Us or Alan Wake, or those types of games? Like, how you have to do one or the other. You can't tell a fucking story in an open world game like that. It just doesn't work. It's like all the GTA games. I mean, like the GTA games have stuff that people think is funny, but like if you look at the overall stories of all of them, it's garbage, and it's dragged out, and it's like if it was a book or a movie, you would never even make it halfway through it.
Yep, exactly right. I mean, the longer a game, the worse a story typically is, and I don't even mean worse, just the less ability you have to communicate. Right? I mean, I say it all the time, but my favorite games are short games, because you're able to do a lot more. You're able to create more of an awareness of who the character is and what's going on, because every sort of hour or additional hour that goes on is more and more filler. I mean, nobody can create 100 hours of amazing story. It's just... Right. You can't do it. The best writers of all time that created the best stories of all time, if you were to just have somebody read a book from start to finish, you're talking 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours.
Right. So. And also, the works that were compared to, I'll give Tolkien credit, because he basically invented what modern fantasy has become, like trolls and ogres and fucking elves, and like he invented all of that shit. And I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan, but I do like it to a certain extent, and it's pretty good. I grew up on Star Wars. I love Star Wars. The
Me
story
too.
in Star Wars is fucking shit. I mean, it is like if you watch
That's a
the Star
little
Wars
strong.
movies critically, like not as someone who grew up with it, but if you watch it as somebody like you're looking at it through a critical eye, the storytelling, the dialogue, even the performances, like they're pretty fucking bad.
Yeah,
The sequels did not help in any way.
I've seen a lot of really bad television shows and movies, and I wouldn't say.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it's the worst. I'm just saying like Bungie was comparing itself to sort of fantasy type stuff, which is really popular but not amazing. Like if they were like, this is this story is going to be like Anna Karenina, then it would be like, oh, whoa, okay, yeah, let's not, start going like into like literature classics, But like Star Wars or whatever, it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, it's a fucking, it's a western. It's a western that takes place in space. You know, I mean, so like, it's not.
Yeah, I'm not sitting here trying to say that Star Wars is some amazing act of one of the great literature acts of all time. I don't agree that it's quite as terrible. Well, maybe
I still enjoy it. I love it for what it is. I'm just saying,
actually, the Empire. Wait, no, what is Return of the Jedi? I think I remember watching that one a few years ago and being like, "Oh, this is pretty bad."
Yeah, Return of the Jedi is pretty shit.
I remember thinking that was pretty bad, but I also remember watching
Empire Strikes Back still holds up.
Yeah, I remember thinking The Empire Strikes Back, and that's, I think, kind of what was so unsettling about Return of the Jedi. It's like The Empire Strikes Back is solid, and Return of the Jedi, I'm like, ooh, yeah, that's kind of rough.
Return of the Jedi is the original Star Wars all over again. I mean, it's the same fucking thing. It's like, go blow up the second Death Star.
Right.
and we have little fucking cute little puppets running around the woods. Like, it really is shit. Han Solo becomes just a fucking pussy in that movie.
Yeah.
Like,
I think people like that movie just because they wanted more Star Wars in 1983, right? I'm pretty sure that's what
the space battle at the end, too, is pretty badass.
Yes, agreed. So a couple of weeks ago, I said that I wanted to find a good game, a good traveling game for me on my 3DS. And I had a few choices, and I settled, after some pretty interesting discussion, I settled on The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. And as I mentioned here, I have not spent a significant amount of time with Zelda games. Growing up, I did not. I had an NES, and I did not play Zelda games because I was poor, and I played sports games. I played RBI Baseball, and Blades of Steel, and Super Tecmo Bowl, and that's what I did. And I just, I played some of a couple of games, like the one that came out when the Wii first came out. I played a few hours of, but it didn't do anything for me.
Way too long.
Yeah, it didn't do much for me. But I've been told by several people, among them our good friend Chris Johnston from the Player One podcast, when we were having dinner at PAX East, and I was having this conversation. I'm like, look, if I never really played a Zelda game, what Zelda game should I play? And he said, without hesitation, A Link Between Worlds. And in fact, Jeremy Stein, who was there with us, who was also in our currently defunct Press Row Madden League, he also
we should discuss that as well. But go on.
Yeah. So anyway, between that and then the conversations that we had and a couple of things, A Link Between Worlds, I settled on that. I bought it, and it was in fact on sale, because they're doing some really good sales on the eShop these days. And I got it for $29.99. And I went on a couple of flights last week, and I've played about 3.5 hours of it so far. And it's really interesting. The first hour, the first half an hour when you're just sort of, being introduced to the game and stuff like that, I was like, okay, this is fun, this is cute, this is, interesting. The next hour, I kind of, I was thinking I may have made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't get to certain places I wanted to get to. Like there's this place with this giant X on the map, and I couldn't get to it. Like no matter which way I went,
right,
I couldn't get there. And like some of the things that I really disliked about JRPGs from a long time ago, just these monsters, just wherever you go, they just pop up, and you got to constantly battle them. I'm like, I just want to just walk. Can I just walk, please, and not have to battle monsters every second? So that was sort of frustrating me. But then about 2.5 hours in, after I made it to the first sort of main castle and really went on my first castle crawl. I don't want to call it dungeon crawl because it's castle crawl. It really.
Glad you made that clear.
I don't know.
I'm going on a field crawl right now because.
Crawl. Right. And it was funny because about halfway through that castle quest crawl, I was hating it, and then once I finished it, I was like, that was awesome, and now I love it. Like,
right.
It just kind of happened.
That's what happens with that game type. It starts off slow, and that's one of the worst things when you get a game like that. You're like, okay, I have like anywhere from 1 to 3 hours that are going to be tedious. Like, you just know that. You're like, I'll just get that out of the way now, and then I'll come back tonight and have fun.
Yeah.
But that's how, like, adventure RPGs are in general. I mean, not just Zelda games, but all games of that type.
Right. But there's a lot going on in the game, and I remember listening to conversations about it when it came out. When did it come out? In 2012 or 2013? 2013, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was last year.
I remember hearing conversations. For example, one of the things that happens very early on is some weird dude comes to your house and he's like, "Hey, I need a place to stay." And evidently, because I kept telling him no, but evidently you're not allowed to say no.
Yeah, there's no choice.
Yeah, I personally.
They give you the illusion of choice, but choice really didn't start to happen until the Mass Effect games.
I'm definitely not the kind of guy who typically lets strangers just move into my house, so I was very against that.
Right.
But eventually he moved into my house and he starts renting stuff to me, and I distinctly recall that being a big deal, right? Like renting things versus buying things. So like the whole concept of being able to rent like the bow and the arrow, or rent the hammer, or rent the different like weapons and stuff that he has, I know is controversial, but as somebody who's never really played one of these games with any significant length, I was just like, okay, I'll rent that bow and arrow for 20 rupees, and I'll rent that big old hammer, and I'll go out and I'll smash rocks and pick up gems and stuff like that. So that's a thing that I know is a point of contention, but for me it was just like, man, that's cool, fine, no problem. To me, renting is cheaper than buying, and then when I die, he comes.
At least it wasn't fucking DLC or a microtransaction.
There you go, yeah.
Like you could have this for fucking 20 rupees in real life. You actually have to convert your money into India's money and then buy it. It's really Nintendo's very convoluted when it comes to buying.
Yes.
Forcing us into rupees.
And another thing that's sort of a big deal to Zelda players was the ability to like merge into the walls and navigate the world by walking like you're part of the wall. It's so cool. Like I love it. Like you're all of a sudden you're a 3D person, and then you're just like in the wall, and when you walk, you just go, you know, and your eyes like look around, but you're this flat plane in the wall. Like I love it. It's so cool. And I don't know really how to get around. Like, I'm randomly walking into dungeons, and sometimes I can't go anywhere, and so to me that's a sign that I don't have whatever I need, that I'm going to get some other place. So I'm just like, all right, I'm in here. It's dark. I lit everything up, and nothing's happening, so I'll go. And I'm just...
Which is how we all... I don't know who we is. People who played the original Legend of Zelda, that's how we played it as well. It was like... I mean, if you got Nintendo Power, you would get some hints, but this was before Game Facts and before fucking Twitter and everything where you could just ask questions. You would just walk into a dungeon and be like, I can't do shit in here, so obviously this isn't where I'm supposed to be.
And by the way, I love that I'm playing the game that way. Like, I'm not looking, and I'm not looking at anything. I'm just exploring and having fun. I want to experience this game the way that I think they want me to experience the game, and I'm thoroughly enjoying that. And one of the other things that I've heard in conversations that the game is way too easy, and that may be the case, but as we've discussed before, I'm kind of an impatient game player. Mm-hmm. And I've died a dozen times, especially when I'm in the castles. Like, the rocks get me. When you're like trying to navigate through in the castle and these giant rocks rolling down, it's kind of like reminds you of old like Donkey Kong games. You got to jump around and smash them and stuff. But I'm just like, I just want to go. I want to move. So I die constantly, and I'm constantly have to go back to my house and rent more stuff from that weird dude that I don't like. And
so this is your Dark Souls, basically.
Yeah, basically. But I mean, I'm dying constantly.
Does it start off in nighttime in the rain, at least, like the original?
I don't. It starts by you waking up. No, you wake up in your house, and this little kid runs in and says, "Wake up!" And you just get up, and then you go outside, and you start on the adventure. But no, it's been
a long time since I played A Link Between Worlds, but I remember there being a thunderstorm very, very early. And it was like, to me, that was the moodiest thing that had ever happened in the game. At that point in time, which was like 1990, I think. So it was like, but it was like, oh my god, that like this looks like real life rain.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that's the same game that we're talking about then, because there hasn't been any thunderstorms or rain or something in A Link Between Worlds. So,
I also did a lot of drugs between then and now.
But anyway,
I don't know anymore. I haven't in a long time, but there was a period where this all went haywire.
But I beat the first castle, and it took me a bunch of times, died 10, 15 times, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, wait, what? You died? I didn't die once in that game. But again, I'm just like, I am charging forward, charging.
Right.
And again, there was a moment in time where the figuring out the puzzles in the castles went from annoying to, I like this.
Yeah.
And
once you start to understand the logic of it, because then you know what to look for. And then it's like, so then the puzzles are still difficult, but you at least know what angle to take on them. Before you know that, you're like, the puzzle could be anything.
Yeah.
It could be like you just randomly fucking, punch a wall, or, you have to run in a square for some reason. But once you start to realize the mechanics of the puzzles in the game, it becomes more satisfying.
And they do some very interesting stuff with 3D. I never used the 3D on my 3DS, but I decided to at least turn it on a little bit of the way. And like in the castle, there's certain times when you're in the castle and you're like outside and then inside, and you go back outside. And sometimes you're outside and you're really high up in the air and you're on these moving platforms, and you get a really intense sense of depth. You're really high and stuff like that. High up in the air, not high.
The 3DS doesn't just pop a joint out.
I really turned the corner on that game quickly, and I'm getting back on a plane tomorrow and doing another typical fall week of travel for me, which is go 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 go, planes, trains, automobiles, literally. And I can't wait to keep playing it. Like, I'm really enjoying it. I'm excited that I'm enjoying it. You know, I think somebody told me that it's like 20 or 30 hours, which to me means I'm probably be playing this until Christmas, maybe longer.
Right.
But I'm
But it
glad
works perfectly for your travel schedule.
perfectly, because an hour, sitting down and playing an hour of A Link Between Worlds is awesome. At least so far it has, because it's not the same thing over and over. It's not Shovel Knight where you just, doing these really difficult puzzles constantly, and it's just good. I'm really, really happy I chose this to be my game, and I'm excited. It's fun, and I'm glad that I'm finally getting a true Zelda experience. So when people have these conversations, I have something to either draw on where I'm listening to it, or something to contribute when I'm being asked about it. And I'm looking forward to, if and when I do finish this game, sort of figuring out what next to do with Zelda, because I know the 3DS has a whole bunch of good Zelda stuff. So yeah, A Link Between Worlds is great, and I'm looking forward to playing it some more. Hey, Pete Dodd, another thing. I turned on my Xbox One.
Yay! How's it doing?
It's still there. It still turns on. It needed some updates.
Right.
It needed a couple of updates. But I downloaded and played that Forza Horizon 2 demo.
That is some sexy stuff.
Oh, yeah. When does that come out?
I believe it comes out... I don't think it's Tuesday. I think it's a week from Tuesday. I could be wrong.
I really had fun playing that demo. That demo is as good of a demo. It did the job for me, which is I'm not saying right now I'm going to go buy it, but I'm saying right now I wasn't going to buy it. Right. And then I played the demo, and now I'm pretty sure at some point I'm going to buy that game. In one way or the other, I'm going to have that game, because that game is going to be great.
I'm waiting on it, not for any reason like having to do with its quality, just because there's so much stuff coming, and I'm doing Drive Club with like through a share, so it's like, why do both at once? Especially when, if I wait until after Christmas, I'll probably be able to get it for like $30 or $40. So.
Yeah. I was just really impressed how they integrated your friends into the demo, and how they give you 3 very different vehicles, and how you're like racing through fields and on tracks and on sort, like, man, whoever designed that demo, that dude is the guy you want doing your demos.
Well, I think it's a testament to the game, though. I mean, that's how the first game was as well, and the first game was also a graphical showcase for the Xbox 360, and this game is a graphical showcase for the Xbox One. I mean, like, we can talk all the theoretical whatever about what the machines can do, but when you see that game in action, you go, that looks really fucking good.
Yep. And my son was sitting there next to me, watching me, because it was right before bedtime. And he was watching me play it, and he was into it. Like, when we were racing and he would see the names of the people above me, he's like, oh, are those your friends? I'm like, yeah, I'm racing my friends. He said, oh, come on, you can do it. And then, it'd make a big turn and smash into somebody, be like, whoa, and just, man, he was caught up into it too. So, yeah, we are definitely on the Forza Horizon 2 train. I want to love my Xbox One, and I could see Forza Horizon 2 being something that contributes positively to that happening.
Absolutely.
Something that I don't understand, though, is Super Smash Brothers. Through the kindness of a Doddcast listener, I got a code to download the special Super Smash Brothers demo, and I am baffled, utterly baffled. I don't get it. It looks great, by the way. The character list is awesome. The environments are beautiful. The characters look great. The sound is terrific. I just have absolutely no idea what the heck is going on.
It's for people on a different level of existence than you and I. It's just chaos to me. Like I don't know. I know that the people who play it at a very high level are definitely skilled, but when I play it, it's just completely fucking random. Like, it's just mashing buttons and hoping that something good happens.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the fuck. There's just 4 dudes. The screen pulls back. Everyone's really small, and it goes in, and it's like, no, I'm good, thanks. I will stick with Street Fighter if and when I want to play a fighting game.
Yeah, I played it for about 20 minutes, and I just, I don't
I also hear it's great for like couch co-op, which like a lot of people played that game like on the the original ones like on the GameCube in like a college dorm, and I could see how that would be really awesome. But like, a couple old farts like us getting Smash Brothers, like there's nothing that we would be able to do with that game. It's too fast. It's too like we'd be like hitting our cane against the screens. That game is not for us. We are not a target demographic.
Oh my god! To me, it's just so funny. To be. It all goes back to sports, right? It's like if you hand somebody a controller and NBA 2K15 and they've never played a basketball game or a major sports sim game, and you just hand them the controller and say go, they'll be like, "What? What's happening? I don't know what's happening right now." That's how I feel. I'm just like, there's a whole context and foundation and base layer, and I'm just like, I'm just hitting buttons and I don't know what's happening right now.
One of my favorite things with the NBA 2K franchise is James Chilton, also known as Chipoko or at the real Chipoko on Twitter.
He's the man who never makes podcasts anymore.
Right. Just gallivanting around the world.
5 weeks paid vacation? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Who in the world gets 5 weeks paid vacation? I gotta kill people to get 3 weeks.
Well, he lives in New Zealand. He also has a gorgeous landscape and free healthcare, and though he actually pays for private healthcare because he says the free healthcare sucks. But anyway,
I gotta move to New Zealand. I'm telling you, it's like. It's utopia.
And he has a government job in New Zealand. He's a government man. So he understands the rules of basketball. He knows how to play the game of basketball. When we got NBA 2K11, he got it too. And we'd play it. And he was pretty good, but he had trouble with the timing of the shots. And then his argument became for about 4 months that after you miss a certain amount of shots, the game should just have the shots go in. just because, it's like it should all just even out. And we were like, no, that doesn't work like that. Like, it's always, like, sort of percentage based, depending on who's covering you and where your release point is, and, like...
Just win the game for me.
Right.
I'm just going to press the button.
His whole thing was that if you miss 15 shots in a row, even if you're shooting full court with 5 guys jumping in your face. That shot should go in because you missed 15 before that. It was hysterical, and he was adamant, really adamant about like how the game was broken because it didn't allow that to happen, and it was hysterical. And he was doing it to be funny.
Well, remember, this is a guy who gets paid to go away for 5 weeks, so this is the kind of thing you would expect.
Right. It was we had good times in 2011. Real good times. It was me and Mike Phillips and Josh, and then everyone else wasn't American. So like we'd have these huge games of people who like kind of understood the sport.
That's awesome.
And it was every game we played was hysterical.
Oh Lord. Our friend Dalo Rance wants to know: are you into horror, books, movies, or video games? Did you play PT? Yes. You are violently shaking your head no that you are not into horror.
I am not into horror. I did play PT.
You know what I like? I like there are a very select number of horror movies that I love.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a vast majority of them that I hate. Right. For example, I love the movie Halloween. It is beyond the very first one with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yep.
Beyond creepy. Now, granted, the first few times I saw it, I was a little kid, and the piano music got to me and stuff like that. Right. But like I love that. I'm trying to think. There are some other really excellent horror movies that The Shining is spectacular.
I remember watching The Shining, and there was marijuana involved. I was about 16 or 17, and we were at my friend's house, and his parents were out of town, and we watched The Shining at like 3 a.m. stoned, and it was the first time I'd ever seen it, and after it was over, I had to go piss, but I was like, can you guys, I didn't bring them in the bathroom with me, but I was like, can you guys stand near the bathroom door? And one of my friends agreed, and then the other one was like, I'm not staying in here by myself, so he and so they stood near the door while I peed, because that movie scared the shit out of us.
By the way, did you ever read the book, The Shining?
No.
The book is...
No. I've actually read a lot of Stephen King books in my teenage years, but I did not read that.
Yeah, see, I'm not a big Stephen King guy. I've read a bunch of his books.
I'm not anymore, but that was young when I was younger.
The Shining is probably my favorite book by him, because
Needful Things is mine. Sorry.
Needful Things, that was a good one. I read that one. But The Shining is my favorite by him because, unlike a lot of his books, I think it delivered the whole time. Like a lot of his books end poorly, I think.
And they always do. But
The Shining not only did it, there's a lot more. I mean, you hear it's what everybody says. There's so much more in the book, but in The Shining, there's a lot more in the book than in the movie. The movie stands alone on its own as a wonderful movie.
Well, it's a fucking Stanley Kubrick movie, too.
Yes.
Which helps. I mean, he's one of the masters of cinema.
Yeah, the way he films that movie is awesome.
Unbelievable. This is movie talk.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say a couple other quick things
No, well, I was just saying because before we were talking about Star Wars and
right. Yeah, this is the movie cast. Right. The movie Dodd movie cast. I don't have a problem with it. Doddcast. But another one that I loved, I really, really, really liked. It was not that long ago. Oh shoot, what was the name of the movie? There have been 2 or 3 of them, but it's a kind of a horror movie where there's no blood. It's not like slasher film. It's just horror without any. Oh man, what was the name of the movie?
Was it Paranormal Activity?
Yes, the very first Paranormal Activity. I saw it in the theater, in a packed theater with my wife and I. And it was the first movie that we had seen since my son was born. And it was awesome. Right. It was so good, especially, and I'm not a big go-to-the-movies guy, but being in the theater with all those people, with the reactions, was spectacular. And that's the kind of horror movie I like, where it's horror, but it's not gore, right?
Right.
And I don't mind a little, like, I mean, it's Halloween, right? You know, there's some blood and some knife stuff, but I mean, there's a lot more going on in Halloween that is the lead-in or the setup as opposed to the actual. So those are the kinds of, you know, horror, and like Poltergeist, you know, is another one, just one of the all-time great.
Yeah, I loved Poltergeist when I was younger. I haven't seen it in fucking forever, but it scared the shit out of me.
Oh yeah.
But I watched it every time it came on HBO.
Yeah, but those are the kind of. Those are the kind of horror movies I like, not what I think a lot of people think is horror nowadays, like, you know, Hostel and...
Yeah, well, there's... Horror movies have become sort of like torture porn.
Right.
Like, it's just about, like, mutilation and whatnot.
Yeah.
The reason I was shaking my head no to horror is, like, I will, like, enjoy, you know, and praise a good horror movie, but... having a panic disorder, I'm already anxious all the time. So, like, a lot of people like horror movies because it's like, oh, it scares you. And I'm like, I'm already fucking scared. You know, like, I don't need to be scared anymore. So that's why I tend to stay away from them, you know. But and why I tend to stay away from horror games as well. It's like, oh, it scares the shit out of you. And I'm like, I do that to myself at least 10 times a day. So I don't need a movie or a game or a book or whatever to add to that.
But we talked about Outlast, right? Like, I played Outlast, and I enjoyed it to a point. I didn't finish it because it got to a point where I wasn't enjoying it anymore. But I certainly appreciated and enjoyed the jump scares and the things like that. So I can get it. Like,
I really enjoyed watching Arne play Outlast.
Yes, that was some of the best stories you've ever told on this show. So I have a feeling like if I played a game that was the game equivalent of Paranormal Activities, right, where it could deliver the creepiness and the fright without, you know, the intestines and the vomit.
Right.
You know, like that for me would be the sweet spot for a video game, you know, in the horror genre. So the other part of that question is, did you play PT? I did not, but I think you did.
I did, and it's not. There's some gross stuff in it, but it doesn't really rely on gross stuff as much as it relies on a really creepy atmosphere. Also, it's almost like a David Lynch film in that you don't really know what's going on, but you're curious. Like, you're not mad that you don't know what's going on. You're just like, all right, I just walked down this hall and I went through a door and now I'm walking down the same hall again. So why does that happen? So there's like just, you know, and it's not like, well, this sucks, I'm in the same hallway. It's just like, I need to figure out why I keep walking down the same hallway. But things like, little things change each time that you do it. And it's like, and that starts to get creepier and creepier, and there's a couple jump scares, and I don't know, I thought it was really cool. If it was a game, I wouldn't spend money on it, though. I mean, like, it scared the shit out of me, and I was like, okay, you know, well-made thing. You came out of nowhere. You know, like, it just appeared on the store one day, like, there was, like, with no fanfare at all. It was just like, oh, here it is. It's free. Play it. And, like, awesome. But... yeah, I'll just stick to thinking I'm having heart attacks or thinking, you know, like that my life is crumbling, and stay away from, you know, movies or games scaring the shit out of me.
One of my favorite, and I still think about this, and I'm sure he says it all the time. I just, I heard it this one time. You and me and Mike Phillips were all on Skype at one Saturday night, and I think you stopped talking for a minute or two, or there was like a gasp or a sigh, and then Mike Phillips says, "Are you all right, Pete? Do you taste metal? How's your left arm doing?" Clearly playing into that.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah. Yep. Mike Phillips. Great friend, supporter, positive.
Oh, Lord. All right. We got one more tweet. Actually, two more. This one, again, comes from Darby Dustbang. He says, have you guys played the Pro Evo demo yet? Is it better than FIFA? I went looking for it. I can't find the Pro Evo demo. Then I Googled it. Evidently, it doesn't come out for a couple more days on the PlayStation 4 in North America. Am I missing something?
No, it's out on the PS3, which I don't own anymore. I have not.
Yeah, but the PES demo is supposed to come out in a couple days. I am all aboard the Pro Evo train only because the Madden online leagues have completely destroyed my enjoyment of sports games, and NBA. How sad is it, Pete, that our only hope for a functional online league this fall is NBA 2K15?
Right. Well, I will say that the Dodd Scientifics Madden League is going along pretty well.
That's because we're not playing each other very much.
We had one desync and like 5 successful games.
Okay, that's good.
So that's better than for some reason the Press Row League is like
it's a disaster.
It seems like I've played 5 player versus player games between the two leagues. I haven't desynced once. I don't know what that means. Like it has to be router port open something. Like their whole thing with cameras and settings and all that shit. Like I fuck around with that stuff all the time in every game that I play, and I haven't desynced. Which makes me think that EA isn't even close to solving this because they're like, oh, put your camera settings the same. And it's like, I've never done that, and I've never desynced, and the Press Pro League has like 10 dudes who did that, and they all desynced. So it's weird and frustrating, and EA seems to not even be close to a solution to it.
Yeah, I went on a bit of a rant. We did a live Press Row hangout last night, and I went on a bit of a rant about it. And now I'm just depressed because the league is dead. I mean, technically it's on hold, but unless a fix is made that doesn't require restarting the league, it's done. And yes, we do have the excellent Dodd Scientifics League, thank goodness, because I really want to play Madden. And it does, thank goodness, have less players. Right. But we did have somebody who tried to play a head-to-head game in the Dodd Scientifics League. They desynced twice and they quit, which I don't blame them. I mean, as I said last night, I don't have... Look, it's a first world problem. I completely understand it. We're talking about video games, right? But let's put that aside. When you get 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 of your friends together to play in a league, and you send out emails, and you schedule time, and then you're playing a game, and then it desyncs. And when we say desync, I use the word desync for a specific reason. This isn't a connection timeout. This is not a drop. The thing comes up on the screen. It says your game has been desynced.
Right.
And then you do it again, and you desync again. It's awful. And then what happens is then you can't even enjoy the games that you are playing because when it's happened 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times, you're just sitting there the whole time. Like, you can't get excited if you're ahead or if you're losing because you just know that it's just sitting there waiting for it to happen again.
Right.
So it's just incredibly depressing.
And it's depressing too because Madden 15 is good.
It's a good game. It's a good game.
Last night, I'm gonna name drop again. How about this? Last night I played my Dodsai League league game, and Kat came in and watched, and then she was like, "Hey, do you want to play a game?" And I was like, "Cool." I was like, "Fuck yeah, I want to, I'll play against Kat." And so like I tweeted it out. A couple people were watching, and we were sort of discussing a lot of like the journalism shit that has been happening while playing. And she beat me like 36-0, and I had a good time.
Yep.
Like, it's really rare to have fun losing a game 36-0.
Well,
it's fun. I mean, like when I fucked up, I felt like I'd fucked up. Like there was one or two plays where I was like, okay, that linebacker kind of had a speed burst that shouldn't have happened. But for the most part, it was like, it feels like when you make a mistake, or when there's a turnover, it's usually your fault, and when it's not, and if there's a guy open, it's because you read the coverage correctly, or like the game feels great to play, and the online leagues are other than ours just because it's smaller and it's a lot of player versus computer games, but
yeah, our league is dead. The Pressrow League is dead, or if it's not dead, it's certainly in a coma. It's officially on hold right now, and I don't know if it'll come back. And it's upsetting because we had so much fun. Like it's fun to have fun, and when you're playing in a great league with a bunch of people, for the most part that play the game the right way. It doesn't matter if you win or it doesn't matter if you lose. It's just fun to play because that's what we like to do, and we can't do it anymore because the game's broken, and it's very upsetting. So I'm all aboard the Pro Evo train because it's going to have online leagues. Now, will they work? No, it's not going to work.
No.
I'm just going to tell myself right now.
Pro Evo has had online problems for a decade. My major issue with Pro Evo, and the reason why I eventually just pre-ordered FIFA 15 before even the demo came out, and I wasn't even as wowed with the demo as everyone else was at first. Mm-hmm. But I've since played it like 10 times, and every time I play it, I like it more and more.
So good, Pete. So good.
It is. It really is. I've scored goals in ways that I never have before. It feels not like a different game, but it feels a little bit more wide open, which I like quite a bit, and really digging it. Set pieces, I feel like are better, or at least I'm better at them. So it's it's one of those things where it's like my favorite shooter's the shooter where I have the best kill to death ratio. So it's like my favorite soccer game is the one that I have the best set pieces with. But yeah, but the reason why even before I played the demo that I was like, all right, I'm just gonna get FIFA is because of the Premier League and it not existing in PES. So also there's a message from Darby on the YouTube streams. It says PES demo is on the Japanese PSN store. So if you wanna play it, there's just Google how to create a Japanese PS4 account. It's real simple.
I'm good till Tuesday. You know me, Pete. I'm not the guy who's going to go do that.
Right. I probably will after this.
But I can't wait. I'm excited for Pro Evo. I'm ridiculously excited for FIFA 15. Tell me, Pete Dodd, in our Pressrow Premier League, who are you going to be?
Really?
Well, TJ's already claimed Liverpool.
How does he just get to claim them? How does that work?
Well, you two can fight over Liverpool if you'd like.
Is this a jersey thing?
Yes, clearly it is.
Is this...
Well, actually, I'll put it to you this way.
Upside down racism because I'm not from Jersey?
Yes, that's exactly it. But actually,
hey, spicy meatball.
We were having a discussion about
racist.
We're actually We're actually thinking of not having anybody be any of the top 4 clubs. So we're thinking of nobody gets to be Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal, or Liverpool.
Liverpool is not a top 4 club right now.
No, not right now, but they finished in the top 4 last year.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but they have lost.
So we're thinking of it, but like for example, I'm gonna be Everton. Cat Bailey's gonna be West Ham. Brian Weedeye from Pasta Padre is gonna be Swansea City. So it sort of feels like we're all going to be those mid-table kinds of clubs, and we don't.
Which is what Liverpool is.
Which is why I said if you want to be Liverpool, you and TJ can discuss it. You're both.
Is he a Liverpool fan?
He says he is, but I don't really believe him. I don't think he even knows who Luis Suarez is. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah. And he's not on the team anymore anyway, which is why they suck.
Right, but he was, and he was amazing when he was on the team. Right.
He was.
So if it weren't Liverpool, let's just put it to you this way: if it weren't Liverpool, who would it be?
Spurs. I would actually take Derby's Spurs.
There you go, an excellent choice.
Derby train.
Yeah. So last tweet of the night, staying on the soccer tip. This one again comes from AJ Powell UK. Is Rich giving up on Everton, and is Pete giving up on Liverpool yet?
Yes.
Because I'm completely. I mean, I don't know. Like I told you, I watched about 5.5 straight hours of sports today. The Everton match came on at 11. The Eagles at 1. I'll just put it to you this way: it's a really good thing the Eagles won today, because if they had lost after Everton lost at home to Crystal Palace. I mean, come on. Yeah. Crystal Palace, who loves beating Everton at home, by the way. Evidently, this is not a new thing. But, I mean, it's almost like, I don't know what's happened to Tim Howard, but he's terrible now. He's just like he went from being a god in the World Cup to being awful.
Yeah, that's always the way, though, isn't it? I mean, it's like once you get, that much attention, and then you take a little break, and then you come back, and it's like, oh, okay.
But they just have no defense. They just played Thursday night because now they're in the Europa League. So they just played Thursday, then they played today, then they play again on Tuesday in the FA Cup. They don't have the depth to play all of these games, and it's getting ugly quickly for Everton. So
I mean, Liverpool still has the pieces in place.
Yes, they do.
I was talking about this last night with Cat Bailey, actually, where I'm at this stage in my life where when a team that I like starts losing, I can't. I feel like I have too much to do, which is ridiculous. Because I don't, but I do, but I don't. So it's like, okay, the New York Giants suck.
Do you see this shirt I'm wearing, by the way, Pete? This is a New York Mets shirt. You know the last time I actually watched a New York Mets game? It's been a few years.
Wow.
It's been a few years.
I watched Red Sox games in April, and then I was like, this team is not going anywhere, and I just stopped paying attention to them.
Well, when I
watched the Giants for 2 quarters.
Yeah. They actually won.
And I was like, okay, now I have my Sundays back.
But I mean, when I mean watch a game, I mean watch a game from the first inning to the ninth inning. I can't. The Mets have been so bad for so long. I don't have the desire to waste time watching them. They will always be my baseball team.
Right.
But I don't have room in my life to watch 3 hours of bad baseball. I don't have it.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way in all sports. I love watching NBA.
Oh yeah.
But I'm a Celtics fan, and they are rebuilding, and it's good that they're rebuilding. But I have zero interest in watching those guys grow.
Yeah.
I'll watch 2 games this season. I'll probably watch far more Cleveland just because the whole LeBron James going back to Cleveland story and is interesting to me.
Yeah.
I'll probably watch far more Cleveland games than I do Celtics games.
Well, the other thing is too, like so there's very many different types of sports fans, but I'm the kind of sports fan who now at the age that I am, I enjoy watching, even if I don't like them, I enjoy watching the best players play. Like I like
Right.
to watch LeBron James play basketball because he's so good at playing basketball.
Yeah.
I like to watch Roger Federer play tennis, or I like to watch Clayton Kershaw pitch. Like I'm not a Dodgers fan. I'm not even a Roger Federer fan per se, right? But there's just something.
He has a weird face. You can't really trust him.
Well, like Peyton Manning today, right? Peyton Manning today engineered an amazing touchdown drive at the very end of the game with no timeouts down the field. Like, I don't care about the Denver Broncos, but watching Peyton Manning do that was fun and exciting. And a lot of people, they hate players who are good. I'm all the opposite. Even if they're playing for a team that I don't like, that's what I enjoy in sports now. So.
Yeah. Well, it depends. I can't root for a Yankee. I mean, not I.
Well, some things.
I feel a little bit like, okay, Jeter, you've been around for like it feels like my entire fucking life, and you're retiring, and you never were in a scandal. You never said anything stupid. You always were a good like sportsman. Like where I feel a little bit, and I felt the same way about Mariano Rivera, where I was like, you guys played the game the right way. You guys were cool. Glad to see you go, because, well, actually, the Red Sox had more success against Mariano than the rest of the league did. But yeah, but that's about all I'm giving the Yankees.
Yeah, I'm 100%
I'm not gonna go watch Tanaka pitch, even though like I'm sure he's fucking awesome, but fuck no. But yeah, I mean that's like I haven't given up on football. Like I will watch football games this season with teams that interest me, but I am not going to carve out 3 hours of my time to watch the Giants because they're not going anywhere, and I just would rather use that time doing something else.
Yep, 100% agree. Well, all right, Pete. I think this has been a show. What do you think?
I think so, too.
This has been fun.
Oddly, we gained 3 viewers since we just started talking about sports.
Hey, we saved it till the end, right? Now people just expect us to talk sports the whole time. Now we saved it till near the end. Sports.
We will. Well, we're going to be talking FIFA next week.
Oh, baby, are we? I cannot wait.
Yeah, me too. And hopefully we will finally have Brian Weedeye, Pasta Padre.
Yes.
Things have just been not working out. And I hope everything is okay with him. I hate to be vague, but...
Yep.
And hopefully we'll have him, so we'll have him for FIFA and Destiny talk.
Yep.
And, and whatever else.
So before we go, I just want to say one quick thing. The Dodd Scientifics forums continue to be my favorite place to experience video games. They are my favorite community to set up things like the tournaments in the golf club. They're my favorite place to listen and read about how people feel about any and everything involving video games. I highly recommend that if you are a fan of this show or you are a fan of being able to have a conversation without getting yelled at 10 seconds later about your opinion, that you go check out and subscribe to the Dodd Scientifics forums. They are really good, and subscribing gives you access to participate in the conversations, to join the leagues, to join the tournaments, to join the clans, to do all of those good things. It will be $8. I can guarantee you, you will not regret it, and you'll be very happy that you spent that $8. That's how good these forums are.
It's a Big Mac value meal.
and you will feel a lot better about it 10 minutes after you spend the $8 than you did after you have that Big Mac.
We will not cause diarrhea.
No.
That is not legally binding, by the way. We probably won't.
And if it does happen, it will be completely circumstantial. Has nothing directly to do with it. Just coincidence. That's all. All right, Pete. Well, hey, let's do this again soon. This was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We will. We'll get some FIFA. We'll find out when Brian has some time, and we'll do another one.
We will
probably next weekend.
Yes, and thank you to everybody who watched live. Thank you to everybody who is listening now, and
also,
thank you, Pete Dodd, for being Pete Dodd.
Thank you, Rich, and have a good one.
You too, sir.